Hi students, this is Mom Razell Mindoro again, an English teacher. For this one, our subject is Child and Adolescent Literature. In this first lesson, I will discuss the introduction of Children and Adolescent Literature, the definition of Children and Adolescent Literature, and their history. Let us commence by knowing what is literature. So in simple words, when we say literature, it's any written work. Okay, so it can be a magazine, novel, newspaper, academic book, comics, manga, etc. Then when we say children's literature, this is any literature that is enjoyed by children. And then more specifically, children's literature comprises of those books written and published for young people who are not yet interested in adult literature or who may not possess the reading skills or developmental understandings for the adult literature. So we say that children's literature can be for anyone, pwedeng pang bata, pwedeng pang matanda, o dun sa mga adolescent na pero hindi pa well-developed yung isip nila para makapagbasa ng adolescent literature or adult literature. In addition to books, children's literature also includes magazines intended for pre-adult audiences. So ito nga yung sinasabi ko, kahit na sinong reader, hindi naman sinabing pag children's literature pang bata lang, no? Kasi i-consider din natin yung mga tao na hirap din naman talaga bumasa. So para sa kanila din. So we have here the characteristics of children's literature. So normally the age range for children's literature is from infancy through the stage of early adolescence. Most of the literary genres of adult literature appear in children's literature as well. So balikan natin itong first one. So as you can see, from infancy. So lahat ng mga books na binabasa ni Mommy kay Baby, mapa ABC, counting 1, 2, 3, animals pa yan, it's included in the children's literature. Okay. And then, fiction. Meron ding fiction sa children's literature in its various forms. Contemporary realism. When we say contemporary, modern realism, fantasy, and history, fiction, poetry, folktales, legends, myths, and all others have their own counterparts in children's literature. Kaya nga lang, syempre, mas mababa yung words na ginagamit, and then hindi ganun ka-complicated yung plot and then yung problem. So kung may fiction, of course, hindi mawawala yung non-fiction. This is for the children, no? It includes books about arts, humanities, social sciences, physical, biological, and earth sciences. And then we also have picture books, counting books, wordless books, and concept books. So madalas ito yung mga binibili nila Mommy kasi hindi pa naman nakakapagbasa yung mga bata, no? So sapat na nakikita yung picture, napapamiliarize, and na-acquire nila, no? So si Mommy na yung bahala magbasa para kay Baby. History of children literature, it began to publish in the 17th century. Okay? Most of the early books for children were didactic rather than artistic. When we say didactic, it is meant to educate the children. Kaya nagkaroon ng children's literature para turuan yung mga bata sa mura nilang edad. Okay. At hindi lang basta para magpakita ng picture or entertain or para lang may magawa. So dati, no 17th century, mas dito. So nila bata pa lang, matuto. Okay? This meant to teach letters, sounds, and words or to improve the child's moral and spiritual life. So tingnan nyo, no? So noon, ano na kagad? Letter na kagad, sounds na kagad. Okay, pero ngayon, so paunti-unti sa pictures muna, familiarization. Okay, pero isang malaking thank you kay John Newbery. Okay, so he was influenced by John Locke's ideas that children should also enjoy reading. Hindi lang puro academic, ang bata-bata pa-aral agad, no? So sinabi niya na maganda rin ang books na gamitin para sa entertainment ng bata. Okay. Another dramatic development in the children's literature is yung pagkakaroon ng picture book. So we have here authors of children and adolescent literature. Okay, it's not, yeah, it's adolescent literature. We have Jack London, Mark Twain, Rudyard Kipling, Edgar Allan Poe, Robert Louis Stevenson, Hans Christian Andersen. So kung kailan yung si Little Mermaid, yan, si Hans Christian Andersen ang sumulat dyan. Another major change for the children's literature is the rise in the multicultural children literature. This happened before the mid of 20th century, so kalagitnaan. So we're going to say multicultural, ibig sabihin, hindi na puro white people lang. Pwede na yung mga Asian, pwede na yung mga Muslim, yun na yung mga nagiging bida, pwede na yung mga black people. Noon kasi, ang mga bida sa stories ay sila Cinderella, sila Sleeping Beauty, di ba puro puti? Okay? Kung may nakita man kayo mga black people or Asian or other race, sila ay portrayed as bad or yung mga gumagawa ng masama or villain. But then, let us be thankful to these amazing authors who fought for the significance of the colored people. Sino-sino sila? Virginia Hamilton, Mildred Taylor, Alma Florada, Walter Dean Myers, Gary Soto, and Lawrence. Okay, so sila yung mga naunang author na inintroduce yung multiculturalism na hindi pwedeng puro puti. No? The world is better with colorful people. Then we have here taboo or forbidden topics were also introduced to children. So, kung say taboo or forbidden topics, ito yung mga topic na hindi sa mga tao kasi mahirap i-explain or masakit i-explain or medyo SPG ba. Like death, child abuse, economic deprivation, alternative lifestyles, illegitimate pregnancy, juvenile gang warfare, and rejected children. But by the early 21st century, yan, mas naisama na itong mga taboo topics sa children's literature, paunti-unti. Now let's talk about literature in the lives of children. Literature serves children in four major ways. First is to understand themselves. Second is to understand others. Third, to understand their world. And fourth, to understand the aesthetic values of written language. So, let me explain to you what does it mean by literature helping children to understand themselves. Okay, so when children read fiction, narrative poetry, or biography, they assume the role of it's as if they are one of the characters. So, kapag nagbabasa sila, feeling nila sila yung bida or kasama sila din sa characters. Through that character's thoughts, words, and actions, the child develops insights into his or her own character values. No? So, kapag nakakapag-reflect siya doon sa character, nire-reflect na rin yung sarili niya na ay gusto kong maging ganitong character. So, unti-unti, nabubuo yung mga dreams niya, yung mga wants, mga likes and dislikes. Frequently, because of experiences with literature, the child's mode of behavior and value structures are changed. So, ito nga yung sabi ko, kakabasa nila, mas na-develop nila yung sarili nila and then yung mindset nila. Okay? So, literature in this way helps the child develop himself. The second one is literature helps kids to understand others. Okay? So, by mere reading also, they became familiar of the different perspectives and behaviors of other people. Nalalaman nila na, ay, nilagot ng tao pala, ganito pala ang mabuting gawain, ganito pala ang masamang tao, ganito pala yung mga dapat lapitan, ganito yung mga dapat layuan. Yan. Third is, they're able to understand their world. Okay. Books can figuratively transport readers across time and space. So this one, hindi lang siya applicable sa children's literature, no? Kahit anong age pa yan. Basta pag nagbasa ka ng libro and you love reading that book, it's as if nagta-travel yung isip mo papunta dun sa lugar kung nasan yung setting ng story. Okay? Sa pagbabasa, nakikita nila yung mga pictures, no? Nakakapag-explore sila sa iba't ibang lugar, ibang kultura, at iba't ibang panahon. Nalalaman nila na, ay, may snow pala, no? Kahit na wala namang snow dito sa Pilipinas. Just by reading, nalalaman nila na na nag-e-exist pa rin snow sa ibang lugar. Ay, alam nila yung spring at fall kahit na hindi naman yun applicable dito sa bansa natin simply because of reading. And then the last one is to understand the aesthetic value of written language. Na sinasabing sa pagbabasa, doon na de-develop yung linguistic skill nila, no? Yung appreciation nila sa buhay at mundo. May mga bata na magaling kaagad magsalita o magaling kaagad mag-express ng emotion nila. Kasi yung mga batang yun yung mga nagbabasa or palabasa. May mga bata na tuwang-tuwa kapag nakakita ng sun, moon, dog. Kasi sa book lang nila nakikita yun. No? Kaya kapag nakikita nila sa personal, super happy na sila. Malaki ang impact ng children's literature sa bata. Kaya bilang teacher, sana maging magaling kayo sa pagpili ng mga babasahin na ibibigay ninyo sa inyong mga future students. Now, let's explore adolescent literature. When you say adolescent literature, this is generally described as books written for people aged 12 to 20 years old. It may also include books primarily written for adults, okay? But it appeals to younger readers, like yung mga teenagers. And gusto nila to. A little history regarding adolescent literature. During the last half of the 20th century, young adult literature has developed a distinct unit of publishing. There is a market for stories, especially written for youth. There is also doom and gloom talk of young people no longer reading like they used to. That there are too many other interests, including the media and then the internet, that take time away from reading activities. So ito yung sinasabi na nagkaroon sa time ng adolescent literature na naging boring, no? Na bored na yung mga bata. In a sense na hindi nila makita yung real purpose ng literature. Una, na boring sila kasi their attention was gotten by media, by internet, by Facebook, by games, Mobile Legends. And then another is, okay, may literature sa school, may mga books naman sa bahay. Pero hindi sa kanila na-develop yung importance. Bakit nila kailangan magbasa? Iniisip nila, dagdag gawain, para saan ba ito? Search ko na lang sa Google yung summary pag mo pinapagawa si ma'am. Memorize na lang ang title at author, okay na yun, napasa na ako sa exam. Pero, hindi naiwan sa puso nila yung purpose ng literature. Lalo pa ngayon sa junior high school and senior high school na kada year level may focus na literature. Philippine literature, Afro-Asian literature, Anglo-American, world literature, and kung ano-ano pa. Kaso, mismo lang sulat-sulat na lang. No, basta lang may maipasa, basta lang makarecite, basta lang mag-grade, pero yung sense, hindi na naipapaabot sa mga estudyante. Kaya nga makapatanong ka na lang, ano nga ba talaga ang sense ng literature sa mga bata? Now, let's talk about literature in the life of young adult. Okay, so, anong purpose niya? First is for academic excellence. Then we have for better communication, to enhance logical thinking skills, and for concentration and discipline. Let's have academic excellence. It is said that numerous studies have shown that students who are exposed to reading before preschool are more likely to do well in all facets of formal education. Dito nakikita na important ang literature sa bata kasi it practice reading comprehension. Reading comprehension na kailangan sa lahat ng subject at kailangan sa buhay. Kahit simpleng tatawid ka or order ka, kailangan mo ng reading comprehension, di ba? After all, if a student struggles to put together words and sentences, how can he be expected to grasp math, science, and social concepts? Will be presented with him when he begins elementary school. So, ito yung isang importance ng literature. Kapag ka mahilig ka magbasa, you're in love with literature, medyo mas magaan-gaan ang buhay. Another help of literature to kids is for better communication. When you spend time reading, you'll be much more likely to express yourself and relate to others in a healthy way. By witnessing the interactions between the characters in the book you read, as well as the contact with you during story time, you're gaining more valuable communication skills. Meaning, the more that they read books, the more na mas magiging effective communicator sila. Communication skill na magagamit nila sa pakikipag-usap sa kahit na sino, sa trabaho man, o sa eskwelahan, o sa business. Another is literature will enhance logical thinking skills. So, another illustration of its importance is the ability to grasp abstract concepts, apply logic in various scenarios, recognize cause and effect, utilize good judgment, and then the relationship of scenarios in books to reality. Ayan. So, mas magiging matalino ang bata sa mga bagay-bagay kapag nagbabasa siya ng literature. Na kahit na hindi niya pa na-experience o nakikita yung sitwasyon, may background knowledge na agad siya na nakuha niya sa pagbabasa. For example, penguin. Hindi pa naman siya nakakakita ng penguin. Halimbawa, Filipino, hindi pa naman nakakakita ng penguin. Pero bakit may mga alam siya about sa penguin? Shapes, sizes, yung habitat. Simply because of the books that he read. Ayan. Also, through literature, concentration and discipline will be enhanced. Adolescents may become distracted during story time, but eventually, they learn to stay put for the duration of the book. No? Kasi sinasabi nga na practice lang ng practice, and then makukuha mo din yan. Along with reading comprehension comes a stronger self-discipline, longer attention plan, and better memory retention. So, sa pagbabasa ng literature, hindi lang tatalino yung bata, pero mahahasa din yung kanyang pasensya at disiplina. Pasensya na, kailangan niya sa buhay. Pansinin niyo, may mga bata na mababa ang grade sa elementary simply because hindi nila nabasa. Nagbabasa. Tapos, pagdating ng high school, tinatamad na kasi puro bagsak ang grades. Hindi na-develop yung love for reading, love for learning. So, papabal na yan mag-high school. Kapag ka nag-college, lalo lang tinamad, nag-drop na. And then, ano nangyari? Nagbuntis na lang o nagbuntis na lang. And then, mahihirapan na sa buhay. See? Failure. Lack of literature can lead to failure. Yan. Kasi, walang patience. No? Hindi na-develop sa tao yung patience. No? Gusto ng ilan sa mga kabataan ngayon or ilan sa mga tao ngayon, instant noodles, instant coffee, instant jowa. Kaya kakamadali, ayan, nadadapa. At ang nakakalungkot na may mga nadadapa na hindi na nakakabangon. Ito tinuturo ng literature, no? It's isang training ground para maging mapagpasensya. Na dapat maturuan natin ang mga bata na magbasa ng maigi, maging mapagpasensya sa lahat ng gawain, kunin yung mensahe ng binasa, kasi bawat aklat may mensahe na nakakatulong sa buhay. Last benefit of literature is it shows that knowledge that reading is fun. It is said that reading helps you to view books as an indulgence, not a gawain, not a additional gawain. Kids who are exposed to reading are much more likely to choose books over video games, television, and other forms of entertainment as they grow older. So, mas focus, no? Mas magandang iparamdam sa mga bata na masarap magbasa. Kasi kung book lover ka, makaka-relate kayo. Okay. So, I was second year college nung ma-in-love ako sa novels. Kasi yung mga classmates ko sa PUP, puro libro yung mga pinag-uusapan. Mga bida sa libro, mga spoiler alert, ganyan. Ganun ang mga usapan. So ako, gusto ko makarelate. So ang ginawa ko, habang nakikinig ako sa usapan nila, may narinig akong parang magandang book. Nagpa-kopya ako. Ang title ng book is The Selection. And then doon ko na-realize, after all these years, elementary, hindi ako ganun ka-fan ng reading. High school, hindi ako ganun ka-fan ng reading. Doon ko na-realize, yun lang palang book na yun ang hinihintay ko to fall in love with reading, to fall in love with novels and books. Sabi nga nila, hindi ka mahilig magbasa. It's just that hindi mo pa nakikita yung book na para sa iyo. Diba? So, mga 1 month kong tinapos basahin yung novel na yun. Estimated ko na sa 200 to 400 pages. And then, binabasa ko siya kada free time. Then, after that, nasundan. Pinakamabilis kong natapos na libro ay Insurgent. 1 week kasing may class suspension noon, so nagbasa lang ako ng nagbasa. Ang advice ko sa mga future teachers, let your students fall in love with books first, no? And its purpose na bakit kailangan magbasa. Then after that, yun pa lang yung moment na you can be strict on comprehension questions and other academic requirements. Parang ano kasi yan eh. Ang literature kasi, parang love. Mag-e-effort ka lang kung love mo. Mag-sacrifice ka lang ng time mo kung love mo. No? Bibigyan mo lang ng time, ng attention kung love mo. Kaya, let your students fall in love with literature first. Gumamit kayo ng iba't ibang games, mga activities, no, para ma-enjoy nila yung learning of literature. For the last part of our discussion, let me tell you the 7 characteristics of young adult literature. First, young adult authors write from the viewpoint of young people. So, yung feelings and emotions na makikita sa ganitong klase ng literature ay yung emotions din ng teenagers. Mga rebellious, liberated, and wild. In many young adult novels, the parents or other authority figures are absent. The characters are forced to confront their own problems on their own. For example, yung Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Diba, hindi naman parating nakikita doon yung parents ni Greg. Okay? Kasi madalas siya nang nag-solve ng problems niya or nangihingi siya ng tulong sa kuya niya or sa mga kaibigan niya. And I think this is one characteristic of a teenager talaga. Yung gusto nila, may initiative na sila. Minsan kasi, nahihiya din sila magsabi sa parents nila. No? Nahihiya or malayo ang loob or natakot na baka mapagalitan. When you say adolescent literature, the literature is fast-paced. The stories are told in a frantic pace and with emphasis on powerful images. Kasi nga, para hindi maboring yung mga bata, no? Like to all the boys I've loved before. Mabilis and at the same time, madaming mga intense scenes. Ginawa ito ng author to keep young adults excited. Kasi once na boring, ayaw nila basahin. Ganon din sa mga precious hearts, romance na book, yung mga manipis lang. Ayan, para mabilis yung plots at mabilis din mabasa. Young adult literature involves a variety of genres and subjects with about half being contemporary, realistic fiction. Mostly, ang topic ay about fantasy. Mga hindi makatotohanan. Madalas kasi at teenagers, feeling nila stressed out kasi. So, if ever they would read a book, gusto nila yung dadalhin sila sa Mars, ganon. Ayaw nila sa news or sa facts, magazines, kasi feeling nila overwhelmed na sila sa sarili nilang mga buhay at problems, no? Bakit pa nila poproblemahin yung Earth? Kaya mas gusto nila yung mga fiction. Young adult literature includes stories about characters from many different ethnic and cultural groups. The characters are no longer all white, hindi na middle class characters, and then there were fewer taboo topics. Just like teenagers, sabi ko nga kanina, this literature is liberated, and then hindi lang puro white people and normal people lang na. It's an inclusion na kahit may mga mentally or physically disabled people, they became protagonists. If you have watched The Fault in Our Stars and 5 Feet Apart, and may mga books na counterpart din sila. So, makikita nyo na hindi lang super perfect yung mga nagiging bida, no? Kahit yung may mga problems sa kanilang mental health and physical health ay nagiging bida na rin. Topics na bold or yung mga hindi para pambata, ini-introduce na rin dito sa young adult literature. And I guess this is the characteristic that is well loved by young adults. Kasi hindi sila tinuturuan ng guardians, family members, teachers, or adults nung mga awkward or taboo topics, no? Like falling in love at an early age, sex, death, no? And sa literature nila, nakukuha yung mga kasagutan or yung experience sa mga bagay na to. Dahil dito, mas pinamahal nila yung literature. Like me, for example, yun nga yung sa The Selection kasi it's all about prince and princesses. No? Gusto ko malaman yung mga life nila, yung environment nila. Ayan. And dahil nga dun sa book na yun, nalaman ko yung environment na gusto ko. No? Kaya ang nangyari, natapos ko yung 4 na libro. Hindi alintana sa akin kung ilang pages siya. Okay. Now we have here, young adult books are basically optimistic with characters making worthy accomplishments. The characters are faced with challenges which earn the reader's respect. Okay. Even if they don't succeed, and then the characters show change and growth. Another good thing about this literature is that it comforts teenagers. Now, if you read The Fault in Our Stars and Perks of Being a Wallflower, nakikita nyo na endings doesn't always have to be super happy or dapat lahat ng character masaya. Matatawag lang yung story na successful pag happy silang lahat, pag may jowa silang lahat sa ending. Endings in most books nowadays end in a way na natutunan na yung bida, nagbabago na siya, nag-grow na siya. And in real life, ganun naman talaga. We don't always have to be happy. The important thing is, we do something for ourselves and for others to make our lives meaningful. And we're down to number 7. Successful young adult novels deal with emotions that are important to young people. Okay? So, dahil nga ang target audience nila ay teenagers, napaka-drama ng kanilang mga content. Okay? Kasi ang teenagers ay nag-a-adjust pa sa kanilang emotional state. Okay? So, ang pinaka-goal ng young adult literature is to comfort kids, no? At turuan ang mga young adult on how to handle life and circumstances. With these, both children's literature and young adult literature are significant. And as a teacher, you should be able to guide kids in learning these matters. So this ends our video. I hope I'll see you next week. Okay, so you can click subscribe to keep on watching other videos. And then if you like this,